Hello everybody and welcome back. Well, oh, that's too hot. Now, yum yum yum. I can't talk today, I should just sit and drink tea. It's not coming out the way I want it to. Hello everybody and welcome to Inside Number 23, my podcast about knitting and sewing and my crafty life in general. My name is Katie and you can find me on all of the social medias as Miss Lavelli, and we also have a Ravelry group for the podcast which you can find just by searching Inside Number 23 in the groups tab on Ravelry, and that's where you can find show notes for this podcast, although I do post a lot of my show notes also down below in the drop down bar. Welcome back if you've been with me for a while. Thank you for coming back as always, and a big hello and welcome if this is your first time sharing a little bit of time with me. I hope you enjoy it. I always enjoy coming and spending a little bit of time with you guys every week, so hopefully it's reciprocated. It's been a busy week inside number 23 this week. I feel like I say that most weeks, but it really has felt particularly busy this week. In case you haven't noticed, I have uploaded since last week's episode 4 different videos on this channel, which has meant a lot of time spent at the computer editing and a lot of time filming, and it's been really fun. I love it. I love the whole process of editing and uploading videos on this channel, but it's a little bit intense when you're also doing a full-time job and, you know, all of that normal day-to-day stuff that we all have to do at home with pets and husbands and all of that good stuff. I should probably say, as always, I'm coming to you from Hertfordshire, which is just north of London in the UK, and I live here with my aforementioned husband, Emrys, and our gorgeous little pup, Rolly, who is currently having a snack downstairs so I can get on with this podcast in peace. 4 extra videos went up this week, 2 different vlogs. I have 2 different vlogs in my series of Outside Number 23, which is basically what I call any vlog that involves me going out and having adventures that aren't in my home. There was the Fibre East vlog that went up, and I also met up with lovely Mina of the Knitting Expat podcast and her good friend Mel, and we spent a little bit of time going around London and looking at some yarn shops. So I made a little vlog during that time as well. I'll link those videos down below if you haven't checked them out and you would like to. Filming vlogs is really fun. I love the editing process of vlogs. It's very different to the podcast, but still very enjoyable, and I get to do different things and fun things, so yes, definitely check those out. The other 2 videos that I have posted are the latest installments of my Hollyburn Sew Along, yay, which is now officially started as it's running throughout the month of August. And if we're going to be talking about the Sew Along, this basically just moves us straight into some administrative bits and pieces. So I have a couple of coupon codes to share, Sew Along information, and I also have some prize winners. Yay! Finally have some prize winners for the Voidalong. So stay tuned if you'd want to hear about all of those things. If you'd rather just skip on to knitting talk in general, I always time code my show notes down below. So just go to the time code for what's on my needles and you can skip past all of this administrative stuff. But let's try and get it all out of the way nice and quick for all of you guys who are sticking with me. So like I said, the Hollyburn Sew Along. I am so excited about this. I've been working super hard on the tutorials, and the most recent videos that went up are the Wait What Size video, which is all about obviously picking a size that was work for you for the skirt. And the latest video was Cutting Out Time, which is all about cutting out your fabric pieces, and I show you my preferred technique, which is using a rotary cutter and transfer paper and all of that fun stuff. I just want to say thank you for the really positive response that I've got so far from everything to do with the Hollyburn Sew Along. It means a lot that you guys are giving a lot of feedback, that you're asking questions. I'm trying to get back in touch with you as soon as I can if you do ask a question. Feedback is really important for this kind of thing, so let me know if you're enjoying the videos. I'd love to know your thoughts. You can always post in the Ravelry thread on the actual Sew Along thread, or for this episode I read pretty much everything that goes up in the Inside Number 23 Ravelry group. One thing I would say, unfortunately, while I'm going to be filming a lot of these tutorials and putting them up for the Sew Along, it does mean that I'm not gonna really have that much additional sewing time. So for now, my sewing segment, which is Sew What, is kind of going to be going on a hiatus. So yeah, I know it's sad. I'm sad myself to not be including that on a weekly basis for you guys, but I thought it would be better to really spend my time focusing on getting the sew along tutorials done, and as soon as those are all finished, obviously I'll have more time on my hands for more sewing projects. But don't worry, it's not gone permanently. It's literally just while I'm spending my sewing time working on the Hollyburn tutorials. So yeah, sew along, watch the tutorials, let me know what you think, and thank you to everyone who's got involved so far. It's really, really lovely to see how enthusiastic everybody is, and I really appreciate it. So we do actually have a couple of coupon codes for the podcast at the moment. Some very, very generous sellers have got in touch and said that they would like to give you, my lovely, lovely viewers, some coupon codes for their stores. So thank you so much to the people who have got in touch. First up is Molly of Molly Klein Design. And I shared with you the beautiful project bag that she made for me. Lovely, smiley, snaily project bag that she made for me. But she also generously gave us a coupon code, which was all in capital letters, KNIT10. Which I will pop on the screen somewhere, and that will give you 10% off in her shop, and she does some really, really fun project bags. And the other lovely seller who got in touch with me was Trish of Yarn Seller Studios, and she again creates these beautiful, beautiful project bags, and she's given us a coupon code for 15% off, and it is inside 23, which I will again put on the screen. So the word inside, the number 23, because obviously we're inside number 23, and that will give you 15% off in her shop. So thank you so much, Trish. I really appreciate that as well. And guys, you really have no excuse not to treat yourself to something lovely, because you can get, you know, a discount. So head on over to Trish's shop, Yarn Seller Studios, or Molly's shop, Molly Klein Design. As always, I'll put all of the links in the show notes down below to make things easier for you to go and spend some lovely money with these lovely ladies and their incredible, incredible shops. So the last part of my kind of admin section this week is that I'm finally going to be announcing prize winners for the Voidalong. And I want to say thank you for your patience. I know that this has been a long time coming. I was supposed to announce these prizes a while ago, and I just haven't had the time to get my act together. This Voidalong was a knit along for the Void Shawl by Melanie Berg, which I co-hosted with my good friend Eric of the Sticks Plus Twine podcast. Eric has not yet drawn his prize winners. I know he's been super busy over the summer, but Eric will be drawing his prize winners in his own time. But I wanted to announce I have 2 winners for my section of the Voidalong. One of which was drawn by one random number generator. Can't get my words out today. And the other prize winner is kind of a Katie's choice. But without further ado, my first winner, who was drawn through random number generator, is Lisa Loves Rain, who is Lisa, who is actually from Scotland. So yay, congratulations, Lisa. You have won the £25 gift card to a place of your choosing. So if you could drop me a message on Ravelry or Instagram, and we will sort out exactly where you want your gift card to be from, and we'll get that sent out to you as soon as possible. So congratulations, Lisa, and please get in touch as soon as you can. And now for Katie's choice, which was difficult, I must admit. I wish I could give every single one of you who took part in the Voidalong a prize, because you know, you all did so well and your projects were beautiful, but the one that really stole my heart was posted by Kimalainen Piku on Ravelry, who is Rachel. So hi Rachel, and yay, congratulations. You posted absolutely stunning shawl, and the thing, to be honest, that really captured my heart about Rachel's shawl is how she described that it fits in really well with her current wardrobe, which if you've watched the podcast, you'll know that kind of having a cohesive wardrobe with lots of coordinating items is a thing that's very near and dear to my heart. So that spoke to me, and it was just a very, very special finished object. So Rachel, you have won, and get excited about this because you have won some yarn from the Circus Tonic Handmade shop. And this yarn is in the stunning Scarlet Honey Eater colourway. So huge congratulations. I am so jealous. This yarn is beautiful, and please get in touch with me and I will pass your details over to Circusonic Handmade. Like I said, congratulations to everyone who took part in the Voidalong, you guys, and thank you for always being so enthusiastic when we do these knit-alongs, because it means everything and you guys are what makes it great. So yay! Yay for all of you. You are awesome. Now all of that's out of the way, let's move on to What's on My Needles, my knitting segment of the podcast. Now I don't have any finished objects this week, and I am fine with that because I had 2 finished objects last week and I was not going to get anything more finished in the week that I've had, being so busy and having all of these extra videos and things to do. But I do have 2 works in progress to share with you this week. The first is something that I've shared with you previously. It's living in my little baby Space Guys project bag, which I made for myself, and I really, really love it. I just love it. And that is Emrys's socks. I have made a little bit of progress on these this week. I'm on my 2nd sock, and this is how far I have got. Isn't they cute? So this is the Blueberry Waffle sock pattern, which I have adapted for a fingering weight yarn, and it is knit with this Regia yarn, which is in their Snowflake range, covered in dog fur as always. And yes, I have turned the heel now, I'm onto the foot, and I'm basically just bit by bit working my way down the foot, and these should be finished really, really soon. These are going to be a birthday present for Emrys, and don't worry because he pretty much never watches the whole of the podcast, so there's no worry about him finding out that these are for his birthday. They're really, really nice. I'm really enjoying this pattern. It's quite brainless, which is really, really satisfying to just sit and knit away. Great television knitting working on these. And now that I'm on the foot, I just have to make sure that they pretty much match up with the one that I finished. So my hoe sock. So as soon as they are the same length, so I just kind of eyeball it, to be honest. Just kind of measure up and see. I'll pop the toe in and then they'll be done. The needles that I'm using are my Carbons. These are double pointed needles, 2.25mm, kind of my go-to double pointed needles. I do go through phases of either wanting to work with magic loop or DPNs, and at the moment with these it's DPNs all the way. But yeah, I'm really enjoying working on them and they're fitting really nicely. I keep trying them on. Emrys, I think, is probably getting a little bit annoyed with me with the amount of times I make him try on these socks. But I want them to be perfect because, you know, big birthday coming up, 30th birthday, and I want him to have lots of nice, perfect presents for that. There are a lot of pairs of socks that I need to get off the needles. I've got lots of little orphan socks, just one sock on their own. And I'm still not really feeling sock knitting. I am so into garment knitting at the moment, it's not even funny. I have had to physically restrain myself from casting on another 2 garments this week. As you can see, I've added some of my lovely additions from Fibre East into my special stash, and they taunt me daily because I want to knit this up. I want to make this jumper so badly. And look at how pretty it will go with my skirt when that's fit. Oh, just, yeah, okay. Putting that away, that was a distraction that I didn't need at this point. But yeah, it's getting a little bit ridiculous how many garments that I want to knit. Everything that I'm interested in at the moment is pretty much sweaters and cardigans. But that's fine because I haven't knit as many of those this year as I would like to. It's all been socks and shawls pretty much. And talking of sweaters and cardigans, moving on to my next work in progress, which is living in my new favourite project bag. Well, I say that every time I pick up a project bag, it's like my favourite, but this is my newest acquisition of project bags. This was purchased from Fibre East. It's from Pink Hazel and I love it. It's so squishy and has so much space. I've pretty much got all of the yarn for this project in here, along with like notions pouches and things. This was sent to me by lovely Jacqueline of the Brooklyn Knit Folk podcast, and I think it looks really nice with this bag. And I've also added on my little bee stitch needle gauge, rather, my bee needle gauge that I got from Loop. in London. So all the bee things, it feels very appropriate because this is of course my kind of honeycomb harlequin bee bag. And this is my Chuck jumper. And it looks very small. I know, it looks very small right now because I did not have the correct size of circular needle, so it's all squidged up on this very, very short circular needle. I'm hoping that I'll be able to swap that out a little bit later. This is how much I have done. So from last week, when I had pretty much just done a couple of rows of the back, I have now completed that first bit of the back panel. I cast on the front panel, and I've started doing this amazing cable pattern, which I am so obsessed with. It's not even funny. I love it. Look at that. Look at these cables. Aren't they amazing? And the lovely thing about this jumper is because it's on a heavier weight yarn, because this is Aran weight, it knits up super, super fast, and that's really satisfying for a cute kind of sweater. For it to be kind of whizzing off the needles already is really, really great. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the pattern, because I know that a lot of you, since I mentioned this pattern, are very keen to cast one of these on yourself. I know it's a very popular pattern in general. My experience with it so far, I love the kind of cast on method that they're using. It's not a method that I've ever used with sweaters before, and it is a paid for pattern, so I don't necessarily want to talk about it too much in detail. But the idea is that you start with the back panel, so you cast on your shoulders, you then cast on additional stitches for the body, you put that onto a holder or waist yarn, and then you pick up stitches at the top of the shoulders, and then you knit down the front panel until you get to the right length, and then you join in the round and just keep going and going and going. But it's created this really seamless join here. Like, you can hardly tell that these were two pieces, one that was knitted onto the other, if you can see. And I love that. I love how seamless it is. This pattern is by Andi Satterlund. I believe that's how you pronounce her name. I hope it is. I'm sorry if it isn't. But she has quite a lot of retro inspired patterns on Ravelry, and I think that they're beautiful. And working on this and just the way that this is constructed, it's really, really enjoyable. So I would be very interested in knitting other patterns by her. However, this pattern is a little bit mind-boggling at times, and that's just because if you can see on the front panel, we have three defined sections of cabling really. We have this side, we have the center cable detail, and then this side, which basically means that when you are knitting this sweater, you're following three different stitch patterns, which can be a little bit confusing. Because the way that the pattern is laid out, you have your stitch patterns separately, and then you have your directions, so row by row directions as to what you're supposed to be doing when you're knitting the sweater. I usually keep my patterns on either my iPad or my phone. I don't like printing out paper patterns. I find it a little bit wasteful. If I can be environmentally friendly, I always will, but it was just getting ridiculous not having these patterns printed out properly, so I had to print them out. I'm referencing them every single row. It's not something that you can just kind of mindlessly turn your brain off, because this cable is relatively involved, this center one. I have had to rip back twice because most of the cabling, when you're working on the front panel, you are working on it as if it were flat before you join in the round. And I assumed that all of the wrong side rows would not have cabling, because the first couple of wrong side rows didn't have any cabling. However, I noticed when I was about where I am now that there was a lot of wrong side cabling when it comes to these little crisscrossed center cables. These are all done on the wrong side, and I'd missed them out, which basically meant that you just had two cables that kind of came together and then came apart, so they had a little gap in the middle instead of having this lovely cross. And I thought, is that going to bother me? And then I realised, yes, it really is going to bother me. So I had to rip back. And unfortunately, I corrected one row where I'd missed that out and then realised that I hadn't gone back far enough because I had been doing that right from the beginning. So I had to rip back again and yeah. It's fine now, and like I said, because the yarn is a heavier weight, if you do have to kind of rip back a couple of rows, it's not the end of the world because it doesn't take very long for you to gain that ground again and get back to where you were supposed to be. But it is a bit, like I said, a bit mind-boggling. It's not a simple pattern. It does require a certain amount of focus. But I am enjoying it, and I just love cabling. Cabling is one of my favourite things to do, and I've pretty much trained myself now to be able to cable without using a cable needle, which makes things so much faster. And yeah, I can't wait for this to be finished. I've already nearly completed the first repeat of the pattern, and this is a relatively small cropped sweater, so it only has 2 full repeats of the pattern, so it shouldn't be too long until this is finished. So in case you haven't gathered by my enthusing, I really love this pattern, and I can't wait to have this as a finished garment. I was very unsure about this colourway. This yarn, by the way, let's talk about the yarn, is Knitpicks. It's in their Aran weight, and it's called Cadet. It's a kind of grey, blue, green, but it's a really nice tone. I was a little unsure about whether or not this would suit me, but the more that I work on it, the more I think it's going to be a lovely neutral, but not just kind of a boring neutral like black or grey. I think it will go with a lot of different things in my wardrobe, so I'm really happy with it. I really love it. This is probably my favourite project that I'm working on at the moment, I'm not going to lie. But who knows, by the time I podcast next week, I may have completely given in to my desires for other sweaters and cast on another 2. You never know. But that's why it's good that this one's moving quite quickly, because it means that the likelihood of me being able to start another sweater soon is quite high. So love this bag. I could just sleep on it. It's so cozy. So that's all of the knitting that I've been working on this week. So let's move on to my next segment, which is what would a bookworm do? So I have actually had time to get some reading done over the past couple of weeks, which is really lovely. For those of you who are new to the podcast, this segment is me re-embracing the bookworm side of my personality, which used to be a much bigger part of my life when I was younger. But seems to have kind of petered off to almost nothing as I've got a bit older. So I'm trying to reawaken the love of books by making sure that I read regularly and read a nice variety of different things. So the first book that I wanted to quickly mention was one that I actually mentioned in my monthly favourites, which is On the Other Side by Carrie Fletcher. I don't actually have the book with me anymore because I've lent it to my mum. She is now reading the book. It's quite different in terms of its style. It uses a style called magic realism, I think Carrie Fletcher calls it, which is basically there are some magical elements to the book, but they are recognised as being just completely normal, and it's really interesting. It's a love story like no other is the tagline, and it's very sweet. It's very heartwarming, and I devoured it pretty much. In a matter of hours I had finished it, and it's by no means a short book. It's not a huge long book either, but it's a nice read and I would recommend it. So that's one of the ones that I have read recently. In terms of the next book that I'm going to talk about this week, it's actually not a new to me book at all. It's a book that I read while I was still at school. It's a science fiction book, and I think that my enjoyment of Stranger Things recently, the amazing series on Netflix, if you haven't watched it you really should, has kind of reawakened a love of science fiction that I had when I was younger, and I used to read a lot of sci-fi fantasy novels when I was still at school. So when I was around about 15, 16 years old. And I remembered a series that I had absolutely adored when I was younger, and I decided that it was about time for me to grab those books again and get reading. I just wanted to share them with you. as something a little bit different and something a little bit interesting. And I know that a lot of you are sci-fi fans as well, and if you aren't aware of these books, you should really, really read them. And it is the Otherland series by Tad Williams. And look at the size of this book, you guys. Look at it. Ugh. So this is the first in a series of 4 books. It's one of the best sci-fi sagas that I've ever read, and I love this book so much. So I'm just going to kind of read you the back so you get an idea of what it's about. Your world is about to change. Otherland, shrouded in secrecy, it is home to the wildest dreams and darkest nightmares. Vast amounts of money have been lavished on it. The best minds of 2 generations have laboured to build it, but somehow bit by bit it is claiming the Earth's most valuable resource. Its children. Ooh. The idea is that there is a virtual world called Otherland in which you can experience things that would not be physically possible in the world, and it's the idea of spending your life in a virtual world as opposed to the real world, which is something that I think is more and more prevalent now because, you know, I'm making this video on YouTube, which is on the internet, and that's my main source of entertainment, is watching other people on YouTube, and we spend so much time on social media, and it's almost as though the majority of people, particularly younger people who've been born into this kind of a society, are spending more time in a virtual world than a real world. It's interesting to come back to this series now, being a little older and wiser, and obviously having had experienced the world of the internet, which when this book first came out, you know, we pretty much just had one computer at school that had internet access, but you weren't online constantly. I would say if you are a science fiction fan, if you're kind of a bit geeky into computers, this will be right up your alley. I would say even if you're not super geeky, this book has a lot to offer. It's written in an utterly beautiful style, so I would really recommend it. A little bit different because I haven't read kind of any sci-fi for a while, but like I said, it's reawakened a love for that genre within me. So very much enjoying this at the moment, and I would recommend it to all of you guys to read as well. Moving on to one of my favourite segments, and that is Owl Post. Oh, the little owl noises. I love those owls. And this is going to be a little bit different this week. Owl Post is usually just lovely things that have arrived in the post, which make me really, really happy. But I have been lucky enough over the past couple of weeks to have been sent some really gorgeous parcels. But also I've had things physically given to me in person when I've met people at Fibre East and around that kind of time, and I just wanted to share all of those things in one little lump of gorgeous loveliness. And yeah, I've got some really, really lovely things to share with you this week. I received 3 different parcels over the past 2 weeks from very, very generous and lovely viewers of the podcast, so thank you so much. First of all, I was sent a parcel by lovely Michelle, who is Leon Michelle on Instagram, and she has an Etsy store which is called Love by Little Map, and she got in touch to tell me that she had made some stitch markers and progress keepers that she was interested in sending me, and that parcel arrived this week. Came all the way from Singapore, I believe. Oh my gosh, you guys, I nearly cried when I opened this. She then sent me a selection of stitch markers. I was maybe expecting kind of just a couple, you know, maybe 1 or 2, and she sent me 3 beautiful sets. And not only are they lovely, but they're so personal. So first of all was this one, which has a variety of different bits and pieces. Then I nearly screamed when I saw these because they made me so happy. Because as you probably know from my project bag that I was sharing with you earlier, I have a thing about bees. I love bees. Anything with bees on it, I'm obsessed with. And Michelle sent me, are these not the cutest things you've ever seen? These are 2 little bee progress keepers, and they are so precious. I have kept them on here because I wanted to keep them all nice to show you, but one of these is definitely going onto my Chuck sweater into the bee bag because all of the bee things have to be together. So if that wasn't enough, that kind of gave me paroxysms of joy opening that. When I saw this next one, I nearly cried. I genuinely nearly cried. This is probably the sweetest thing that has been sent to me. It just touched me so much, and let me show you. This is a little collection of progress keepers and stitch markers, but if you can see, there's this beautiful K, which is gorgeous. Then we have a little Poopy, who if he had down facing ears would be just like Rolly. And we have a K-R-E for Katie, Rolly and Emrys. Literally, I nearly cried because, as you know, I am a crier. I can't thank you enough, Michelle, for sending those to me. It was, like I said, one of the most thoughtful things that's ever been sent. And she also included a little kind of puppy themed collection of stitch markers, or their progress keepers, for a giveaway, which I shall be storing up again for a special occasion, but thank you so much. The next parcel that I received was from Laura of the Knit Shift podcast, so do check out her podcast. And she basically said that she saw this in a shop close to her and she couldn't not get it for me. Look! It's a pug in a mug tea infuser. As you know, I love pugs. My baby pug, my Rolly, is my whole world. And I love tea. And this is so funny. Basically combines those two things, because you fill his little bottom with loose leaf tea, you pop him in your mug, and you're good to go. And that made me laugh so much, Laura, so thank you. She also included some lovely minis and some handmade soap, which smells divine. The third parcel that I received was from a lovely, lovely viewer of the podcast called Janet. So hi, Janet. And she got in touch because I had been talking about some Hanafetic patterns that I had been drooling over. And this was just before I started my featherweight cardigan. I was talking about a collection of patterns called Home and Away, and how I pretty much loved everything in that collection and wanted to make all of the cardigans and sweaters. And Janet, lovely Janet, got in touch and basically said that she had an additional copy of that pattern book and would I like her to send it to me. Of course, I mean, it was such a lovely gesture and so thoughtful. I have Home and Away by Hanafetic. Oh my goodness, guys, if you don't know this collection of patterns, it's a really nice kind of staple collection of beautiful patterns that are just absolutely stunning. I'm utterly obsessed. I want to knit everything in here. All I can say, Janet, is thank you so much. It's beautiful and I can't wait to start knitting some projects from this. As if that weren't enough, she also sent me, I mean, we were talking about how everybody knows that I'm just basically pugs and bees. Look at her card. Look at that. Look at their little faces. She said that she wanted to send me some yarn, and Janet, you just probably sent me the best yarn that's ever been sent to me in my entire life. This yarn by Ancient Arts, which is amazing because I've never used Ancient Arts before, so I'm excited enough, is the Pug Dog colourway. Look at it. It's the colour of pugs. It's pug yarn. It's pug yarn. So it's 100% superwash Blueface Leicester, which is gorgeous and squidgy, and I love it, and I'm obsessed with it anyway. But it's pug colour, and I actually took a picture of this yarn next to my little pup because I couldn't help myself, and it's literally the exact colour of Rolly, and I'm so obsessed with it. Thank you so much, Janet, and I cannot wait to knit something up with this beautiful yarn. They'll have to be like super special because it's pug yarn. Come on. Moving on now from parcels to actual gifts that were given to me, kind of at Fibre East, around Fibre East, that I wanted to share. And first of all, I had a really lovely encounter at Fibre East with a really, really lovely lady, and that is Sarah. So hi, Sarah. Sarah was so lovely as to come up and say hello to me at Fibre East, and she also gave me a gift, which was just so sweet of you, Sarah. Thank you so much. She gave me this. which is a mini skein collection by Kate Celine, who I'd never heard of before. But these colours, you guys, look at them. They are so beautiful. So thank you, first of all, Sarah, for giving me this because it's so gorgeous. But also thank you for introducing me to a British-based indie dyer who is obviously doing incredible things at the moment. So thank you so much for this. So appreciated. And like I said, just thank you for all the love and support that you've been showing the podcast. You are awesome. At our podcaster meetup at Fibre East, I was lucky enough to meet Claire of Beautiful Things. Hi Claire. Claire has a podcast and she also has an amazing business for kind of craft and sewing classes. That's her postcard there. So Beautiful Things. She was generous enough to give me this little Notions pouch, which is kind of like a little teepee shape with all these cute little birdies on it, which I thought was utterly adorable, and some progress keepers on there as well. And Claire, it was lovely to meet you. Please go and check out her YouTube and show her some love because she's awesome. Thank you, Claire. It was such a lovely treat and it was just lovely to meet you. So I have one more thing to share with you in terms of Owl Post, you guys. And this one was a completely unexpected gift from Mel, who is Mina's friend who I met at Fibre East, and then we met up and went to London, and I was not expecting to be getting anything from Mel at all, and yet she presented me with the most beautiful present. And I feel like you guys are just gonna think that I'm so soppy, but I genuinely nearly cried again when Mel handed me this gift. And it is a project bag that she made herself. Look at the little pugwins. Oh, look at how grumpy their little faces are. This bag is incredible. And like I said, Mel, who is Dubai Mel on Instagram, she made this herself, and I would buy this. It is so beautiful and so well made. I would 100% pay good money to have a project bag like this, particularly one that's covered in such amazing little puglies. But yeah, she doesn't have an Etsy shop or anything like that. I think she said her kind of thoughts are is that she just doesn't have time to do that. So she just makes them for herself and for friends and that type of thing. But it's fully reversible. I do think I'm going to keep it with the green pugs on the outside, just because I can't get enough of that fabric and how funny all the little puggies are. And I was thinking I should use this yarn with this bag, and that would just be the best project ever, don't you think? Just thank you, Mel. It's beautiful. I just feel so overwhelmed and so lucky. You know, what can I say? I really have no words, to be honest, because I am the luckiest girl in the world. So I have one more segment left of the podcast this week, and it's time for General Waffle. General Waffle, which is basically my little bit of the podcast where I can talk about anything that takes my fancy that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with knitting or sewing or any of those fun things. And like I said earlier, it's been a bit of a long week this week. It feels like I've been really busy and I've had so much stuff to do. It's been pretty intense. And one thing that this always brings up for me in times of kind of stress, when I'm very busy, when I've got lots of stuff to do, is it kind of knocks my self-confidence a little bit. And that's really what I wanted to talk about this week. Self-confidence and our perceptions of ourselves in the world. Now, I've said this before on the podcast that I almost didn't make a podcast. For a very long time, I prevented myself from making this podcast because I was worried about what people would think. I was worried about not being good enough. I was worried about the fact that I would have nothing new or interesting to say, and that self-doubt really stopped me from doing something that I'd wanted to do for such a long time. It's only when I kind of forced myself to set up a camera and make a video. The first video that I ever made was a fabric haul. And if I hadn't done that, I could have stopped myself from doing something that has made me the happiest that I've been in a very, very long time, just because I didn't believe in myself and I thought that I had nothing worthwhile to say. It is something that I've kind of got over when it comes to the podcast, but in every aspect of my life, whenever I do something different, I still get that sense of crippling self-doubt and fear. This week and over the past couple of weeks, it's particularly come into focus through the new videos that I've been uploading on this channel. All of my Hollyburn sew along tutorials. When you put something different and new up into a space like this, I mean, luckily you guys are the most supportive and loving audience that someone could wish for, but it's still that fear of almost being found out, that you're not actually a confident person, that you're not actually the type of person who knows everything. Because I know a fair amount about knitting and sewing because I love these things and I spend a huge amount of time doing them, but I would never consider myself as someone who knows everything. But when you're putting up tutorials where you're helping people and guiding people, I suddenly thought, why do I think that I would be able to do this? Why do I think that anybody will be able to learn from the way that I'm talking, the way that I'm presenting this information? Why on earth have I put myself into a situation where I'm opening myself up for embarrassment if I get this wrong? That's a really hard place to be when you're trying to be creative. I always remember the extract from the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert that talks about creativity and fear and how those things have to go hand in hand, that you can't have one without the other. And that basically you have to just accept the fact that fear is there, but don't let fear be the thing that drives you. Don't let fear make decisions for you. Don't let fear be the thing that is telling you that you can't do things. Do those things anyway and accept that fear will be there with you while you're doing it, but that's not going to stop you from doing the things that you want to do. My fear tends to be embodied by a couple of different things within my life. Most of it's to do with self-doubt as to my ability to be able to do things, my ability to engage you as an audience and create new and interesting things for you to enjoy. But it also becomes more internalized. I'll pick myself apart bit by bit. I focus on the small parts, the small imperfections. I'll beat myself up about my weight and the fact that I weigh more now than I did 4 years ago. I'll pick up on every tiny flaw and imperfection in my appearance until that's the only thing that I can see when I look in the mirror. We are our own worst enemies. It isn't necessarily someone external telling you that you can't achieve things and that you're no good at what you're trying to do, because a lot of the time it's you. You are your own worst enemy and you're getting in your own way and you're preventing yourself from doing things because of this ever-increasing amount of self-doubt. No matter how much you try and ignore it and how much you push it down and how much you try and move on with your life, a lot of the time that feeling of being inadequate is just lurking there under the surface for those moments when your confidence wavers and then it jumps out at you again. And I'm not talking about this because I want you to feel sorry for me or to feel that I'm in need of rescuing or help, because that's not what this general waffle is about. I think what it's important to recognise is that it's okay to feel like that. It's okay to doubt yourself and to have these feelings as long as you don't allow those feelings to drive your car. When you're on your path in life, those feelings are probably going to be there. That fear is going to be there. That self-doubt is going to be there. But don't let that drive you in terms of what you are doing with your life and the choices that you're making, because you could be missing out on something that brings you so much joy. It's okay sometimes to acknowledge that you're scared and that you're overwhelmed and that everything's a bit too much. This last week, I spoke to Emrys about some of this stuff, and that was so freeing to just acknowledge this is a normal process to be going through. This is part of being creative. This is part of living a life to its fullest. So I know that this is a bit deep, a bit intense for the end of the podcast, but this is just kind of where my mind has been over this past week. To me, doing this podcast, having this space, makes me happier than pretty much anything that I've done in a very long time. And the thought that I may have prevented myself from having this, from meeting you guys, is a huge awakening for me in pretty much every aspect of my life and the decisions that I make in terms of what I want to do, because I don't ever want to regret not doing something because of all of these doubting feelings that we all get. And I know it's hard, it's so hard, but yeah, I think I finally admitted to myself that that's okay. It's okay to feel like that sometimes. We can only be bright, shiny, happy people if we've experienced what it is to not be that way, I think. But guys, thank you for listening to my slightly rambling general waffle this week. And if you take anything away from it, it would just be that you mean so much to me. Thank you for the support and the love that you have shown inside number 23 in our journey so far. It means everything to me. And to have you come back week after week and listen to me waffling on about yarn and puppies and my feelings, it just means everything. You guys are what this is all for. So thank you. If I could give you all a hug through the camera, I would right now. Oh, I'm such a nerd. That is everything for the podcast this week, you guys. Please like the video if you've enjoyed it, and if you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button, as that is the best way to be notified whenever there's a new video on this channel, which at the moment is happening really regularly, so you may want to subscribe for all those extra bits and pieces that have been popping up. As always, thank you so much for spending some time with me. I think you've probably gathered that the message of this podcast this week is just you are awesome and I love you. And it means everything that you come and spend some time with me. So thank you so much. I hope you all have an incredible week this week. I will see you next Monday. But for now, happy sewing, happy knitting. I love you all and I'll see you soon. Bye! I'm refueling. It's really important to keep your energy levels up when you're doing things that are mentally demanding just as much as when they're physically demanding. I'm talking with my mouth full, I'm really sorry.